What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Canes Insight Daily Podcast, powered by Anijar and Levine Accident Attorneys. We're back in the studio. Too much home podcast. We need to get these nice cameras. We can't survive on the bad cameras. We need a little help with these guys. So we're going to be talking about a loaded week of recruiting visits, of spring football coming up, and what better way to start than with the number one prospect in America, Jackson Cantwell. He is here in Miami. The weather could not be more perfect. He's here with his family. It is a 4-day visit. That's going to be obviously a pivotal visit for this recruiting class as it tries to get closer to that top 5, top 3, top 1 spot. Number 1 player in the country will help you get a little closer. You're trying to get closer to what you feel you deserve from your accident. Anijar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anijar and Levine. Pete, hop in here.
What's going on, D?
Feeling good, man. Glad to be back in the studio. You know, people still think that you're in some kind of like random warehouse in West Kendall, not standing, right there next to me. But it's good to be back in the building.
Yeah. I agree. It's good. It's good to see you in person. Ready to go. Ready to talk about these guys who are, not only obviously have some guys on campus now, but I know there's going to be some visitors later in the week. I know you reported running back Jamal Rule over the weekend would be here this week, and you were talking about him last week as well. But good time of year, like you mentioned, weather-wise, it's been perfect.
Yeah, good to get you up the pitch. I know you've been putting in work out there. Tell me your game. I know your game on the basketball court, the original Jokic.
Yeah.
Your style of play has kind of permeated the whole NBA, that kind of slow, thick white guy game.
Yeah.
Cerebral. So
yeah,
now,
I'm a deep lying playmaker. I could play some inverted fullback as well. People bounce off me. I tell you that much. That's for sure. The blows are being delivered by me and received by others. So, just having a good time with it.
The inverted fullback. I don't know if there's any inverted fullbacks on campus this week, but a lot of top players. Let's just start with the guys that are going to be here at practice tomorrow. So it's Monday. I don't know when you're hearing this, but we're recording this on Monday. Practice gets rolling on Tuesday. So let's start, right at the top of the charts with Jackson Cantwell from Nixa, Missouri, number 1 player in the country. He is here for a 4-day visit. So if you're wondering if this is serious, he's visited unofficially. He has an official visit already set up for later in the summer, and now a 4-day unofficial visit with his family. We're going to be talking to him when he's done with his visit. So we'll have an interview here exclusively on Canes Insight Podcast. So like and subscribe if you're not already a part of this. But, the player, we've talked about him a ton. This is the son of Olympic throwers. So mom and dad, both Olympic throwers. He himself is a big-time throwing prospect on the track. Incredible power through his hands, long, lean frame, very focused, committed kid, great intangible reviews when I talk to people around the program. But it's really just that power potential that he has as a blocker through his hands as he gets stronger. Still learning pass blocking just because he hasn't done a ton of it in high school. But he's somebody that, in this scheme with this coaching staff has gotten a lot out of Markel Bell, who's not that much taller than Cantwell. Obviously, Mawanoa, guys like that. It is a clear framework for somebody like Jackson Cantwell to develop. And I'm told there's also a connection between Cantwell's the throwing coach at Miami, meaning the track and field throwing coach who would probably coach Cantwell when he's not playing football, and his parents, who, of course, like we mentioned earlier, are both Olympic throwers. So some ties there, but Cantwell's here right now, 4-day visit, going to be at practice tomorrow. The weather could not be better. So excited to see how that one goes. DC, appreciate you checking us out. We here to deliver a little later today, but a lot to talk about. We'll have the spring practice reaction right after practice, like we've been doing with Peter tomorrow. So you'll get that as well.
Canes come back to us, says they should have Sewell come down and talk about his old coaches. Look, I mean, I think the track record there speaks for itself. And they're about to, I believe, over the next couple of years here, create, when I say they, Mario and Mirabal, create their own pipeline from Miami to the pros. And, this list of guys getting drafted will start to grow here, I think, over the next year or two.
Yeah. So question about Tom. So this is Tomohini Tapui. Matter Day Pipeline could do wonders for us. I wouldn't be surprised to see Tom back on campus with another unofficial visit. I believe that will happen here later this spring. In fact, I can confirm it will happen later this. He was here this past weekend for a offensive line tournament run by Torian Wilson, who Pete did. You know Torian Wilson, right?
Yeah, crafting lineman, right? Yeah, that's crafting lineman. We actually were talking to him at the camp last year, the Under Armour camp. A guy that I'm familiar with, preps a lot of guys for the NFL. Draft, played at UCF, played at Northwestern, and he's just really well respected as a coach down here and nationally as well.
Maybe we should have him on the pod. They just had a camp here with Tom Tapui from Matter Day, also Breck Kolojay from IMG, Ryan Moret, Cannon Pickett, some major Miami targets all there at that camp. But with Tapui, a defensive tackle, big defensive tackle, he'll be back on campus, I believe, in a couple weeks. I can confirm he will be back on an official visit. His teammate, Chris Henry, also a major Miami target. Could you see him on an official visit an unofficial visit? Stay tuned for that. Chris Henry actually half Samoan or half Polynesian, which I didn't know. And then the father, of course, Chris Henry, the late Chris Henry from the Cincinnati Bengals. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see some of these Matter Day kids on campus this spring unofficially at the University of Miami. And with respect to Tom, I can confirm that. And Chris Henry, keep an eye on that one.
Bert asks, with Ben Congdon committed, how many more linemen do we take, especially if we land Cantwell and Kenya Pepe, which, by the way, Ben Congdon, we had that interview. I believe we posted that last Friday. Great kid. And, man, I think physically has it all and is going to continue to, with that wrestling background, I think he has some of that nastiness and just like core strength that at his size you wouldn't expect, but excited about that commitment. Not to get too far off the question there, but people have kind of asked this same sort of question. I don't think they're going to be shy with bringing in linemen this year. I think you could see like up to 5 in this class.
Yeah, I mean, guys like Cantwell and Pepe, you're talking about zero chance that they run out of space, right? Those guys are gonna have space no matter what. So I wouldn't even think about those guys as part of the numbers, right? They are just themselves. And you're
losing a lot. I mean, it's easier to recruit when you're losing potentially 4 starters on an offensive line heading into the next year, right? Because you're returning a lot this year, but you expect a Francis to be gone. You could have a Markel Bell gone. You could have Brockermeyer at center gone, and Inez Cooper. So you're going to have a lot of guys that you're excited about behind them, but you're selling an opportunity to play relatively early.
And we've mentioned this is the best year in Florida for offensive line that anyone can remember. Johnny Jones from Tampa, Berkeley Prep, he'll be on campus. Other names I mentioned in the bank, which I posted at CanesInsight.com, 7 million posts and counting. Sign up for free today. Cantwell, Pepe, yes. But also there's a flip candidates. Emmanuel Tucker from Mississippi, committed to Mississippi State, basketball player, 4-star. Miami loves him. Don't be surprised if he is a potential flip candidate. Joel Irvin from Fort Myers, big tackle body, committed to Louisville, huge upside. Miami loves him. They'll keep pushing there. Then we talked about Cannon Pickett from Tampa, Breck Kolojay from IMG, Chancellor Campbell from St. Petersburg, another big guy, Duron Parks from Sarasota. These are all legit, high-end, high-power for offensive lineman that Miami would take. Micah Smith from Vero Beach, big guard prospect, can also play tackle. Sam Greer from Akron, Ohio. So just a lot of offensive linemen to keep an eye on top of the ones, you just mentioned in that tweet. Cantwell, Pepe, who are plus ones no matter what.
D, I know obviously we're talking a lot of recruiting stuff here, a lot of baseball comments coming in. It was a tough weekend for them. Are you going to be doing a show this week, I'm assuming, on getting into the nitty gritty of the team?
Yeah, we'll do something with, we'll bring in Sebastian Font or Javi Salas. We'll get that going probably after the midweek, heading into the weekend. Midweek's huge. Obviously, FAU, a team that beat Miami. FSU series is going to be a tough one. This is potentially the best team in the country, including the number 1 overall prospect in the class of 26 on the mound. With Arnold, Jamie Arnold, and that first baseman, that lefty, man, he might be the first pick of the draft 2 years from now. So they got a ton of talent on this team. It is the best program in the state, I would say, at the moment. We saw Florida, and Florida's a top team. But I think from talking to scouts and just what I've seen, FSU is maybe the best team on the schedule for the Miami Hurricanes. So that'll be tough. There's a lot to overcome. This is not where Miami wants to be, obviously. Dangerous territory for Coach Arteaga. I think, some of the things that concern you, the bats doesn't feel as dangerous as the teams that they're playing, whether it's Wake Forest, UConn, UCF, Florida, certainly FSU coming up. It just never feels like Miami has the more explosive, powerful bats that can just tear a game open. It's much more small ball, some good hitters in there, but it's not as explosive of an offense based on the opposition. So that's going to have to change. You see Antonio Jimenez balling for UCF, Miami shortstop last year, Blake Sear hitting the cover off the ball for the Florida Gators, Jason Torres at Alabama hitting a lot of home runs at first base. When you started looking at those guys who Miami lost from a team that was already below 500, not a good sign to see those guys performing at a high level when you're struggling for offense. So a lot of warning, dangerous signs for the Miami Hurricane baseball program. But, they got a chance to turn it around. You take that series from FSU and you beat FAU, who beat you earlier in the midweek in the season, you could turn around some momentum. But that's a tall order, which makes this a very, very dangerous time period for the Miami Hurricanes.
Kyle says, D and Pete, y'all feel good about a Samson, Okunlola, Tommy Kinsler tackle combo in 2026. I mean, look, that's still a long ways away. I think if you ask me right now, if those guys are ready to be the starters, I'd probably lean towards no. Offensive line it's a weird position in terms of progression and development. I should say sometimes that light just goes off, a little bit later than others. Both of those guys have physical tools. But I think this is a huge spring. Ask me this question again, in a few weeks when we have a better full understanding of a full camp or full spring, I should say. But I think what I will say is I expect Miami to be aggressive in the transfer portal still next year. You're excited about what they have, but at those premier positions of tackle, with the track record that these guys have in terms of their ability developing and coaching up offensive linemen, they're probably going to have a good chance with, and I'd imagine the NIL budget will be skewed a certain way when it comes to getting premier linemen, but that's also still a long ways away. Who knows what happens?
Yeah, I would say definitely, I think portal next year on top of great recruits. Samson's somebody I think is progressing well. He got hurt, nicked up, nothing crazy. You saw those videos of him working out with Jalen Rivers and Markel Bell, and Mauanoa. So nothing serious there, but he's a little nicked up. But he's somebody who I think Miami feels good about his progression. There's a reason why he's not out the door, right? You would think a guy like Samson hasn't started yet. He'd be, and not, a lock to start this year. He'd be out the door, but he's still out there working, which shows you that they believe in him. He believes in what's happening with him. Kinsler's got a huge spring ahead of him. He's got so much talent, bigger than Mauanoa and Samson, just as athletic, if not more athletic. Got to put it together and got to really take a step forward because he has all the ability in the world. One guy you didn't mention there, as far as 26 tackles, again, I think the portal could come into play there. I think a guy like Jackson Cantwell, if you get him, maybe he gets up to speed pretty quick, or Pepe. But one name I would mention there is Matt McCoy.
Yeah.
If McCoy's still here in 26, which I think he probably would be, but, assuming he doesn't have a great year or something happens, you can put him at left tackle, which I was told has always been his best position. He just had injuries and, Markel Bell emerged, and he's not someone you could kind of play a guard like McCoy plays a guard. So I think circumstances have kept McCoy at guard instead of tackle. But I think everybody in the building that I talked to believes that McCoy is an NFL-type tackle and probably one of the more underrated players on the team. I've seen him in person, obviously a ton. And I think until you see Matt McCoy in person, you don't realize how big he is. This guy's like 6'6", like 320 plus. I mean, this guy's big, and he's a former tight end, so he can move. This is a very highly talented player. I think do not sleep on Matt McCoy, especially because he has 2 years to develop.
Chris Grotto says, how much of an influence does Syracuse have on Calvin Russell's recruitment? That's obviously the school that's been talked about a lot and has probably, if not toe to toe with Miami, maybe a little bit ahead right now. It's going to be a tough battle, which some people may say, how is that possible? It's Syracuse, Miami's home for him, right? He has some family ties and all that, but at the end of the day, Syracuse has made him, not that Miami hasn't made him a priority. This is a guy that the Canes want very badly, but like when they're throwing absolutely everything at you and a coach has made it a mission for you to be the face of a program, essentially, that's what they're selling to him. It's hard for a guy not to at least take a hard look at it. So I think that's the situation with him right now, but Miami's still in a good spot right there. And I think we'll be recruiting him till the very end, even if he does make a decision here that isn't Miami early.
Yeah, I think that's right. This is a school as their whole NIL budget, to a guy like Calvin Russell, not all of it, but I'm saying they're not in the mix for like multiple, 5-star players that they have to worry about. They're locked in on this target. There's a good relationship there. The basketball angle they have. His mom is a Miami Hurricane Hall of Famer, so clearly that's a tie to the school. But when I understand, she's got a business that can move around, so it's not a lock. I mean, Syracuse is in there. Miami's got to fight for Calvin Russell.
Kyle says your boy Jay Lucas needs to help us with Russell. Kyle's not a Jay Lucas fan, so I don't know, man. If he does that, I think you'd be saying he's not making moves that are in the best interest for the basketball team, man. I don't know. You're gonna spin it out either way, Kyle. We love you, man, but I don't know. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk here about Tyree Green in a second, Pete, but pull that up from Atlanta. But one guy I want to talk about before then, we have a question from Kid asking about the recruitment of Jabari Brady from, I believe he's back at Monarch. Correct me if I'm wrong. He was at Chaminade last year, originally at Monarch. I think he's back at Monarch. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments. And Brandon Bennett, wide receiver from American Heritage, legitimate speedster, track superstar in the 100 meters. So that's what's happening in those recruitments. I think both of those guys I've seen up close. I saw Bennett return a kick to the house in the state championship game. Jabari Brady, seen him in 7-on-7 settings and on TV, and of course the highlights and everything. I think Miami right now is, in terms of local receivers, the guys that really stand out are going to be Calvin Russell and Jason Lopez from Chaminade. I think you could pair Brandon Bennett and Jabari Brady, just comparing them to Jason Lopez, right? I think you see with Lopez just a lot more productivity. He played with Brady last year and was the superior receiver at Chaminade, even though Brady was the higher rated guy, longer guy, kind of looked the part more. But Jason Lopez at the same school was the better player by a good amount last year. That doesn't mean that's how it is always. There's projection involved here. I think the fact that Jason Lopez was so productive in football at the highest levels while also being a top basketball recruit, I think that package, and then doing his thing at camps, I think that package is very alluring to Miami. We talk about local receivers. Brandon Bennett, incredible speed. I think he's still developing as a receiver, probably the third or fourth best receiver for Heritage last year. Definitely their fastest player. But the pure receiving ability, I think Tony's a little further ahead, or solidly ahead of him last year. Noel, yet some other guys that can run routes and catch the ball. So I think Miami's very much in South Florida, focused on Calvin Russell and Jason Lopez. I talked about Tristan Keys. Tristan Keys, Tristan Breeze. We'll get that right one day.
Don't say we.
I'll get that right one day. So Tristan Keys, who we interviewed on the show, was amazing. If you haven't seen that interview, check it out on Canes Inside. You'll see his interest in the Canes. He was wearing the Miami gloves. I think that's a real thing. SEC is going to be the favorite there, but I think he does like Miami. You get him back down on campus. I think he's got an official visit set up. He was ready here unofficially. We recruited him in campus. We interviewed him in the studio. He had made an unofficial visit. So, I think he's somebody that, a lot of teams are going to go after. He's the number one receiver in the country. And after interviewing him, I can see why.
Well, and D, there's been a lot of comments about that. I saw look, there's no chance the Canes get him, just on the interview. And I saw a lot of people say, there's no chance that Miami's going to get this guy. They're never going to get the number one receiver in the country. And these things aren't always black and white. We're not saying that Miami's going to land him, but we've interviewed guys over the years who were high caliber, right? Maybe, I mean, number one players of their position, and you can just sense it's not going to happen. There was not a real interest there, and they were taking the visit for fun. That this is not always black and white, like I just said. I'm not saying Miami's the favorite, but there's legitimate interest there.
Yeah, like you said, the gloves. We've been glove watching for 20 years. But I mean, look, I think we're in that mix. One comment here before we get to Tyreek Green, I want to talk about, who's on campus now or tonight. Breck Kolojay from Comeback Tour, Canes Comeback Tour. How's his game? Offensive line guy. I believe he's originally from Colorado. He's at IMG. Love him. Miami loves him. Big, nasty interior offensive lineman. He's rated, I think he's a 3-star, maybe a low 4-star, but all the top schools are in on this guy. He went to that camp, that camp we mentioned, run by Torian Wilson. He was awesome there. He'll be on campus a ton this spring, like all the IMG guys. We'll see plenty of Breck Kolojay. I believe he's here this weekend or this week. So Breck Kolojay, tremendous target for the Miami Hurricanes, big time interior lineman. I've been hearing his name for a year now. So he's someone that Miami's prioritized for a long, long time, and they'll have a great chance. It's about getting, Kolojay's family in town, having them see Miami and getting them, to understand the experience. I think is going to be key. And those guys will be in town pretty soon this spring to watch the Canes.
I wanted to bring this comment up real quick by Ian Coleman. He says things change when you get a Luke Nickel and Darian Coleman recruiting receivers versus an unknown Emery. Let's remind people Emery was in the Elite 11 as a 4-star quarterback, right? So we can see things, and everyone has their opinions of what it is, what things are now. But Emery was not a small recruit by any stretch. So,
yeah, he was at the Elite. I don't know, was he a 4-star? I know he was.
I'm pretty sure he finished as a 4-star. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, he finished as a high 3-star, but he was in the Elite 11.
He was an Elite 11 quarterback though. He wasn't an unknown guy.
No, but I get Ian's point. I think Coleman
more so than Nickel, honestly.
Yeah, I think Coleman's going to be the guy that can attract some people. He's on the 7-on-7 circuit right now. He lights it up. He has that kind of persona, kind of very Cam Ward-esque with the confidence. I could see him kind of bringing some people along with him in this class. So someone I want to talk about here before we get too far astray. Miami's done a great job since bringing in Coach Etheridge, bringing in Will Harris, of recruiting, or at least putting pressure on that Atlanta, Georgia area for defensive backs. You had Dorian Barney come in to visit, top 247 cornerback from Carrollton, Georgia. You had Blake Stewart from Atlanta come on to visit the first week. Now this week, you've got Jontavius Wyman from Jonesboro, which is Atlanta area. You have his teammate Cortez Redding, a safety, coming in this week. So 2 big-time defensive back prospects, and then Tyreek Green, also from Atlanta, 4-star player. This is a guy who is a really, really, really good athlete, 10'9" in the 100 meters, legit 5'10", 191. He'll be a 200-pounder, plays both ways, but he's somebody who he is going to be on campus here. It is Monday, so Monday night, you'll see Tyreek Green get on campus. He's going to have a nice visit here, visit practice, everything else. But you watch these highlights, 10'9" speed. You want to see what that looks like right there. Again, it's not like he's, 10'9" is not 10'4", but 10'9" is fast when you're up to 200 pounds, and certainly faster than a lot of Miami safeties in recent years. So he's someone that, again, you see him there on offense, two-way ability, the size, the speed, the production.
Big program.
Yeah, I think he's somebody that there you see him right here. Nice little strike and a form tackle. So he's somebody that I think is going to be doing his thing here as a senior. And I think Miami's very, very interested. Appreciate the kind words. Play by the rules. Baseball, yeah, they got some work to do. This FSU series, I think, is going to be pivotal one way or the other, because it could be a really, really rough weekend for the staff and for the team, or it could be, a shot in the arm, like you mentioned. So that's going to be big. Starts with FAU, who beat Miami last time they played. But as we watch Tyreek Green here, somebody who I'm told has significant interest. He has a relationship with our new defensive back coaches, who, by the way, one point I want to emphasize here, and Pete, pull up this tweet of I believe it was Coach Etheridge that tweeted the bad boys with him and Will Harris. See if you can find that. But one thing that was told to me this weekend.
What am I looking for?
Tweet Twitter.
Will Harris.
Will
But
Harris.
What is that?
Bad Boys. Yeah, you never seen that, Pete. You never seen the movie. You know what I mean when I say the movie Bad Boys.
Oh, it's the second. It's the second. It has to be because the picture says Bad Boys. But
you never see that. I know you know. I know your pop culture knowledge. And you like to flaunt how little pop culture knowledge you have. I know you know this movie because it's in rap videos. This is Miami. You have no idea Bad Boys.
Never seen it.
But you know what I'm talking about, though.
I don't know.
Oh, give me a break. All right, here we go. So this is Zach Etheridge, Will Harris, tweeting the Bad Boys memes. Obviously, two cops, buddies in Miami, Florida, is the premise of Bad Boys. If you're like Pete and you haven't seen this movie, but that's the idea is that Harris, Etheridge, Miami's two new defensive back coaches will be teaming up and bringing some recruits down here to South Florida. One thing I could say talking to people this weekend is that this whole thing you see on the internet, that's real, and that there's a very good relationship and partnership forming between Harris and Etheridge. Etheridge, I believe, is coaching safeties, right? And Harris coaching corners. I should get that straight before spring gets rolling again. But they're really almost two sides of the same coin, right? They're each recruiting each other's position. It's not like there's a fine line like there maybe has been in the past of the Cristobal tenure. These guys are working together and they're teaming up. They get along and they're similar. Harris is from Southern California. Etheridge from down here in the deep South, Alabama, played for the Auburn, but they both recruited in the SEC. They both kind of know what it is. And now they're here in Miami. So that's a pairing that early returns, again, is March 17th. But I think people around here are very, very happy about what's happening in Miami's defensive back room from a recruiting standpoint and from a culture standpoint, starting from the coaches, both of whom had a ton of success at their prior stops. Oh, wait, Gio saying I think it's the other way around. Etheridge with corners, Harris with safeties. You're right. You're right. I screwed that up. Apologize. Etheridge was hired first to coach corners, and Harris was later on with the safeties. I know it's been different at different times for other stops, but yes, you're right, Gio. Appreciate that. Etheridge coaching corners, Etheridge to coach at Auburn, then moved on to Houston for non-football reasons, and got a promotion to Houston. Now back here, Miami, or down here, Miami, to coach cornerbacks. Will Harris, USC grad, was in the pros with the Rams, coached the Gators last year to a major improvement in their defensive backfield. Now is Miami's safeties coach. But again, they're kind of interchangeable. Positionless coaching, right? Like my boy Spoelstra, positionless basketball, which we're tweaking right now for the Heat. Positionless coaching.
Positionless basketball doesn't sound as fun without LeBron there, huh?
But anyways, two finals.
We had a question here from Anthony Manzano wanted us to get to Ethan Feaster, wide receiver. Is Miami still working on him? I know he reclassified.
Yeah, he's a target. He's in there. Trigger's asking, how about Damari Brown? I think he's our best cornerback along with Xavier Lucas and OJ. I mean, he's been banged up. We got to see him play. My view on Damari Brown is great size, great athlete, knows what he's doing out there. I think for him, my opinion is safety is kind of the most exciting spot for him, I think, because he saw his brother, his brother is way less physical than he is. His brother also moved to safety. But I think if we put Brown at safety, his brother Devontae, former Cane, transferred to FSU, started safety for them. I think with Damari Brown, he just brings so much more size and strike to the position. Strike meaning when he tackles guys, they go flying backwards. He just has that natural pop to him. I think at safety, he's going to be very, very good at run support. He's very, very good athlete for that position. You can line him over the slot, no problem. That's what he does anyways as a corner. So I think he fits best, in my opinion, as either a nickel or a safety. You mentioned OJ Frederick, freshman All-America, Xavier Lucas right behind him. Don't forget about Ethan O'Connor, who is a very, very good cover corner from Washington State. Redshirt freshman last year, 4 interceptions, including a pick 6 and a game-sealing pick. He's been really, really good at workouts. We'll see him here in the second week of spring, now starting tomorrow. But he's another, to me, a premium type corner. You also have Charles Brantley, who was a starting corner at Michigan State, graded out really high in Pro Football Focus. Smaller guy, not as physically impressive as the other guys I've mentioned, but was very productive. Took Dylan Gabriel, I believe, to the house. I know he took CJ Stroud to the house. He's just a very talented corner despite his size. Somebody who can make a lot of plays and is a veteran. And also Emmanuel Carnley, who's a 6'3" corner from Arizona, another redshirt freshman last year who had a good season, started games, and is now coming to Miami as a sophomore with 3 years of eligibility. He had some moments there in spring. Again, still early. He's going to get turned around some with his height. He's not as fluid as someone who's 5'10", but that length makes a big difference, and he's got speed as well.
Ian Coleman says Damari and Patterson duo at safety would be nice if OJ and Lucas locked down the outside. I find it hard-pressed to find Poyser not starting.
Yeah, Zechariah Poyser is the best safety on the roster by far. He would have been the best safety last year, probably our second best safety when we had Cam Kitchens, and better than Cam in certain respects.
Liked it, and we've mentioned a lot, but Dylan Day is to me in a very nice spot for a lot more playing time this year.
Yep, I agree. It's a question about how many DBs, quality over quantity. Yeah, I think we'll see. I think it will be quality. I'm just thinking, again, we mentioned Tyreek Green. He's on campus right now. There could be another committed defensive back that makes a trip down to Miami. We'll see. I'll let you know if that player arrives and who it is. We got a lot of guys that Miami likes at that position. Just this week, you're talking about the 3 Atlanta guys with Green, Jontavius Wyman, who's corner currently committed to Georgia, and Cortez Redding, his teammate. So I think all 3 of those Atlanta guys, if they want to come on board, I don't think Miami's going to push them away. So there'll be a lot of guys from the Miami area. You also have Jalen Waters already locked and loaded, top cornerback on the board, great length, just great size overall. There's a lot of names at defensive back, including some committed names. So we'll see if Miami's able to pull a flip or two here.
Ian Coleman said, I thought Brantley was a slot. Could be wrong. I do think he's going to be more of a slot corner.
Yeah, he did not play that at Michigan State. Yeah. I believe it was outside predominantly at Michigan State, but he could play over the slot as well. But so could all of these guys. Because, if you have Ethan O'Connor playing like we think he might play based on what he did at Washington State and how he looked at workouts, and then you have Frederick's freshman All-America, he's not going to move. And then Xavier Lucas looks like a monster the first week of practice. He was my standout performer. Had an interception on a go route that he just ran stride for stride with the receiver, turned around, found the ball. Looks every bit of 6'2", 200 pounds plus with 4.3 speed. So that guy's a real deal, dude. So those 2 are they have to start. And then you add Ethan O'Connor. Is he not going to start? So to me, I think if I had to guess how this plays out with no injuries, OJ Frederick, Xavier Lucas, and Ethan O'Connor inside, just because you got to get all 3 of those guys on the field. They're too talented, too young, too impactful. They can take the ball away.
Bert asking about D-end. Where do you find the snaps for the young guys after Bain and Mesidor for Blunt, Malik Bryant, Cole McConaughey, Booker Pickett, Marquise Lightfoot? And he corrected himself there. He added Hayden Lowe, because I was going to say Hayden Lowe, to me, just from not just saying it because everyone's excited about him. He's the shiny new toy, but I see him kind of right up there in that pecking order. I think Malik Bryant has a certain role that he's going to play, but size-wise, Lowe's jumped ahead of some of these other guys, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you, Pete. I think Lowe's going to factor in. Blunt's going to factor in. Those guys look the way you want. That was one of my takeaways from the first week of practice is a lot of times you saw Bain and Mesidor followed by Lowe and Blunt as far as the rotation. The rotation changed, but that was one rotation that you saw, and you're basically getting 2 big, powerful guys in Bain and Mesidor. Then you replace them with Blunt and Lowe, equally big, but probably more explosive and just more of that 5-star look to him from a physical standpoint. So those guys are going to play quite a bit. And then I think, you'll see other guys play. Bryant played a ton last year. Coleman Conathy played a lot last year as a freshman. Pickett and Lightfoot, similar body types. Throw Elias Rudolph into that mix as well. And Herbert Scroggins, all guys with kind of that lanky outside linebacker body type. I asked somebody and they said, look, these are good players. We got to get them on the field. Expect competition at these spots, particularly when you compare that sort of boundary defensive end, more that Scroggins kind of guy, that Malik Bryant kind of guy, more of a linebacker, and then the field defensive end who's going to have more length to cover more ground, Hayden Lowe type of player.
Carl Davis says, Canes media do this with every freshman. Couldn't stop talking about 44 last year. Now he's a ghost. McConaughey got banged up last year. He was playing in that Louisville game and then got hurt after that. And I think we're excited about him still.
Yeah,
and it's a different caliber of prospect that we're talking about here too. McConaughey wasn't a highly rated guy. We said keep an eye on him. He ended up getting meaningful snaps. And Hayden Lowe is a top 15 player in the country that, we're seeing right off the bat can stack up and looks like he's getting ready for the NFL draft right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been pretty accurate with the freshmen. I'd say that's one of the things that's the easiest to spot, right? I mean, you just go back last year. Who were the 3 freshmen that we talked about the most? Elijah Lofton, Jordan Lyle, and OJ Frederic when he got here later. Lyle and Frederic got here for the summer period, and we spotlighted them immediately. And then from last year, it was Lofton during the spring. Those are the 3 guys that played the most. Frederic was a freshman All-America. Lyle played a ton. Lofton played a ton. Both of them will have much, much bigger roles in this offense now that guys have gone on to the NFL. So I think that was pretty accurate. In terms of McConaughey, him and Pruitt, 2-3 stars from Mobile, Alabama. We highlighted those guys as contributors, and they both played real snaps, like with the defense in critical games. You saw Pruitt out there in the Syracuse game. You saw McConaughey playing real snaps in real tight games. I want to say Virginia Tech, he was playing some pretty important snaps, real games that were in doubt, not just a garbage time. So I think, now is the time to see which freshmen are going to help your team. They're not all going to be freshman All-Americas. Some will, maybe. There's been one every year that Mario's been here, but you'll definitely see some, you will see these guys play. So we'll find out who it is after spring.
Gio asking when practice starts up again, and that is tomorrow.
Yep. Well, it's on asking after spring happens, who are our targets in the portal? I don't know who's in the portal right now, so that's speculative. I would say position-wise, wide receiver. You want to add an impact guy there. You love JoJo Trader and his trajectory. You've got some young talent between Nikar, Malachi Toney, Josh Moore, Dalen Upshaw, Chance Robinson, see if you can get him in the mix. There's guys there that can play, but I think you need, I say Trader's going to be a guy. CJ Daniels, when he comes back from his foot surgery, which held him back. I think his foot injury, held him back at LSU, which is why he didn't have the explosive season he had at LSU that he had at Liberty. We'll see if he comes back with the same explosiveness, but either way, he's going to be a factor. So CJ Daniels, Trader, you feel good about. I think Malachi Toney will probably be undeniable by the end of the spring, but you got to bring in some proven explosive talent. I think you'll see whoever the best receivers are in the portal after spring. Miami's going to be a factor for those guys. They tried with Singleton. They tried with a few other guys, but without the quarterback in place, it was tough. This is going to be a much different situation going forward. So I'd say that position and also linebacker, just a guy that can run and hit and tackle, impactful kind of linebacker. That'd be something you could see here.
Anthony had a second part of the question there asking if you saw Miami, if you think Miami would go after a veteran quarterback. And I mean, look, I think if Emory stays throughout obviously after spring, then I think they probably stay firm there. They're not gonna really make a move. But if Emory goes, then I would imagine they try to pick up someone else at that position.
Yeah, I guess the rest of the spring goes. You want to see how Nickel looks the rest of the spring. You want to see how Judd looks the rest of the spring. You don't know really how these guys. The quarterbacks, I'm very much wait and see because you just haven't had a lot of time. They're not wearing, they're not going to get hit anyways, but it's just, there's not as much of a pass rush as you will see once they start scrimmaging. So there's going to be more real, more bodies flying. And then we'll see what they got again. It still won't be live, but I just think that's going to give you a better feel for what they can do. And more importantly is right now, a guy like Luke Nichols taking reps with the lower, the guys that are more walk-ons, less of the JoJo Traders of the world. I want to see Nickel throwing with the top receivers, at least for a spell. I think you'll see that here now that we're back in business after spring break. And that's going to give us a much better feel for whether Luke Nickel has what it takes to be the backup quarterback this year. And if you want to get a feel for Cuban food, maybe you're not from around here. Maybe you are from around here and you're just tired of your neighborhood spot and you want to taste the absolute best 40-plus years and running. That is Islas Canarias in the Dayland Mall Dining Pavilion. You don't have to go out west. You used to go all the way out west. Anthony Bourdain, the renowned chef on Food Network, took a trip all the way out west just to eat at this establishment because that is how prominent it is in the Cuban community. Now it is right in the middle, right close to everybody in Dayland Mall, in the Dining Pavilion, right off the metro, right there in downtown Dayland if you're in the area. Nothing better for lunch, breakfast, taking a dinner before you head home. Islas Canarias has got it all, 7 different types of croquetas, all different types of empanadas. You got, unique takes on tostones. You have handhelds, which are not necessarily Cuban tradition, but the ingredients are Cuban traditional, and you can take them to go with those cubaditos. And if you want to keep it traditional, Cuban sandwich, all the pan con lechon, all the classic Cuban sandwich options, and breaded meat options there, for your selection. Plus, they got the bowls. Really everything you want, they have at Islas Canarias Express, the #1 Cuban restaurant in Miami. If you want the Croqueta County shirt that I wear every Wednesday, there you go at croquetacounty.com.
There you go.
Yeah,
I'm hungry now.
I know, me too. I didn't eat much of a lunch, so that was kind of painful to read. Not being able to experience it right now. Maybe I'll swing by and stop by, say hi to John Andrade and the crew. But Pete, anything basketball wise? I know you guys were talking about some potential targets. Anything you're hearing, seeing?
I think you'll see some staff moves made official probably after this next week, because the tournament starts this week. Need probably a couple teams to get knocked out of the tournament here in weekend one. Bruiser Flint has been a name that we've heard a lot. I fully expect that to happen. He's a special assistant to the head coach is his title at Arkansas. He's a long time. He was a head coach at Drexel, I believe, for like 15 plus years. Was at Calipari with Jay Lucas as an assistant coach, and then followed him to Arkansas. So I'd expect him. Andrew Moran, we've talked about for a while. Columbus has the national championship tournament the first weekend of April. So would expect that to probably be official after he finishes up his duties with Columbus, and just gonna keep tracking everything here. I know everyone's looking for info. We already see Coach Lucas. I'll tell you a little anecdote. So I saw Coach Lucas last week on campus looking like a madman on the golf cart, hopping off the golf cart on the phone, walking back and and then I talked to someone else who said they saw him somewhere else, and that they saw him they were in a building, and he was down in some courtyard, and that he was just pacing on the phone for like 30 minutes back and forth. So he's working the phones, I can tell you that much, right? But in terms of the targets and the portal and all that, you're getting a head start on information gathering, who's going to be entering, working those back channels. Point guard from Pitt, forget his name. Trenton Breeze posted this the other day. I would expect him to be a target. John Lucas's dad has a very close relationship. He's not in the portal yet, so this is all speculation right now at this point. But have heard he is a guy who there's a decent chance Miami makes a move for him. Wouldn't be surprised to see Jay Lucas get creative and dip into the European market as well, based on some things that I'm hearing. So yeah, we'll keep you guys updated as always. These updates brought to you by Aries Law, PA, for estate planning, trusts, wills. Go check them out, AriesLawPA.com for your free consultation. But yeah, D, these updates are going to be coming quick now, right? We saw Austin Swartz, we should mention that, enter the portal. Was a fan of his. I think coming in, obviously, was a tough situation for a player like him, who was a top 60, 70 player in the country, but a guy who is a good scorer. I believe has potential as a shooter, as an outside scorer, perimeter scorer, but in a system that was so discombobulated, there was no one. He had to really try to go out and get his own shot. No one to set him up. It wasn't pretty at times this year, but I think there is some potential there for him. But personally, I just think that Jay Lucas has a plan for what he wants to do, and it involves certain, building around certain players. So wishing Swartz luck. I don't think anyone that enters the portal is going to be a surprise. There's only a handful of guys that can still, because only a handful of guys have years of eligibility. The one that I'm interested in potentially is AJ Staten McRae. I don't have any info on it, but I think he could be a nice role player for this team moving forward. And Paul Jobay too, potentially. I mean, he's taken steps, but these guys have to be willing to accept a role, right? And Staten McRae with one more year of eligibility may say, man, I want to go somewhere where I can be a focal point, right? And he had some good moments this year. He had some good games. I think he showed some ability. But that's what Coach Lucas said in his press conferences. I got to make sure these guys are ready to accept roles. Jalil Bethia, that's the big one. He's not NBA ready. I think we know that. I think he probably knows that right now. Is he someone who Jay Lucas wants to bring in, or does he just say, I don't think that it's going to mesh with what I want to do? Those are the things that we'll be monitoring. I'd probably lean towards it saying that he's not going to be here next year. But that's, again, no info on that. That's just kind of what I would expect right now.
Yeah, and look, we saw who was there at the press conference. Like you mentioned, Joe Bay was there. We'll see. Staten McRae was there. We'll see.
Kyrie Huey was there.
Huey was there. Schwartz, I liked him. I thought he was a very good role player down the road as far as just being a big-bodied, athletic enough shooter with really nice form. He's not going to be Klay Thompson, but you build him in that style of player, right? That's kind of the role you carve out for him at the college level. But that seems like that's going to happen. The two best, most talented players that you had in this class are the two that we still haven't heard from, right? With Bethia, I should say, and Divine. So, we'll see where that goes. They were not at the press conference. That's going to be something to keep an eye on. Talked about baseball a little earlier. Listen, no matter where the season goes, hopefully it is very good by April 19th. And we get this FSU thing we get the season turned around here with this FSU series and FAU. A lot of opportunities for this Canes baseball team to make a move. But regardless where the season is, take your pup to the light for Bark in the Park. April 19th for just $95. You get 2 tickets to the game, a photo with your dog, a wooden frame, a leash, paw magnet, and a ball toy. Don't miss out. Fetch your package today at MiamiHurricanes.com/bark, MiamiHurricanes.com/bark, $95. And you get that great experience. And the dog doesn't know where we're at in the ACC. So he or she will have a great time no matter what.
The question here from Jeremy, we'll take a few more questions before we wrap things up here. We're over 1,000. So hit that like and subscribe to the channel, guys. Appreciate the support as always. Jeremy asking about Marquise Lightfoot. Has he put enough weight on to play defensive end? Could he get time at linebacker with that speed and power? I kind of said this the other day when a comment was made about this. I don't think Lightfoot or Booker Pickett, for that matter, or Rudolph are ever going to be guys that are 260, 270 or traditional defensive end. We should not think about them in that light. Do they need to put weight on to sustain some of the bigger guys they're going to see over the course of the season? Without a doubt, but they're always going to win with speed. You need to get these guys to a point where they're 240, 245. Anything more than that, I think you're almost putting too much weight on them. You're not letting them win with that quickness, with that twitch that they have. So I'm not thinking about a guy like Lightfoot as a defensive end linebacker. I'm thinking about as a guy who can get after the quarterback, is rushing the passer. You can move him around, do different things. Maybe line him up as a blitzer over the interior. Who knows what they end up doing with him? But I'm not. They need to keep putting that good weight and strength on, but I'm not saying, man, these guys need to get to 255, 60 pounds to put their hand in the ground. These guys are pass rushers. I don't want them to lose that speed that makes them so special potentially.
Yeah, and there's a role in this defense, talking to people over the weekend, for guys like Lightfoot, like Pickett, like Elias Rudolph, like Herbert Scroggins, like Malik Bryant. So that position, I put all of those guys. There's really 5 players in one bucket as far as stand-up guys. There's a role for them in this defense with Coach Heatherman. I confirm that. So now it's about who's going to be the most consistent, who's going to do the best in the offseason, who's going to put the weight on, not to be a different type of player, but to be at the best version of their type of player, who's going to really take that leap forward over the course of the spring. I think those are the 5 names to keep in mind. Malik Bryant, who played the most last year, Lightfoot, Pickett, and Elias Rudolph, who all came in together, kind of jumbled together in a bunch there. And then Herbert Scroggins, who came in this past year, this past signing class, and I've heard great things about. Heard he's a very good team player, somebody who is not only very talented, I think he's the all-time Georgia sack leader. He's one of the all-time leaders of sacks in the state of Georgia, but he's someone that's unselfish. He will play technique right to let someone else get the sack. He's not going to go rogue and hurt the defense just to hunt sacks, even though he does get a lot of sacks and has his whole career. So that's someone to keep an eye on. I just like the intangible side of Herbert Scroggins, who also with very good tangibles beat out some SEC schools for that signature. And the reason you are able to beat out SEC schools for signatures like Herbert Scroggins, Hayden Lowe, you name it, canesconnection.com/CIS. We got a lot of very, very interesting content stuff coming out with Canes Connection. We're going to keep you posted on that when it happens, but you want to sign up today for canesconnection.com/CIS. You're going to get exclusive Q&As with me, not just the Zooms, which I will continue to do, but other ways to get your questions answered on the most kind of inside topics of football, things that I can't just say on the podcast, things that I can't just say in the open on the board. canesconnection.com/CIS. Canes Connection members, you will be able to take a look at that information and get your questions answered at the highest level while also supporting the Canes. Who doesn't want to do that? canesconnection.com/CIS. Join the cause today. Be part of the solution. All right, Pete, excited to get back to practice tomorrow. I'll see you out there bright and early. We'll do your recap show. We'll see what we do after that.
I gotta say, D. I gotta say something here.
Say it.
So my girlfriend, she subscribes to us on YouTube, and she came across one of the instant reactions the other day, of me, in the car, and she was kind of taken aback at the amount of, comments I was making about young men's bodies and the changes of the body that they've made in a short period of time. So she was a bit startled by that. Might have to dial it, tone it back a bit tomorrow when mentioning Justin Scott's lower half. She was, she had to turn it off after I got a little excited there. But yeah, I'll be out there.
It's hard to do this kind of thing without that. So that's why when you go to canesinsight.com, again, free message board, the biggest Canes community on the planet, 7 million posts and counting. When those conversations go that way, we got a poster named Confidence 1000. He'll post Razor Ramon, hey yo, pause, and with the pause button. So
I had to explain to her that there's only so much we can see and comment on, So that's what we see.
That's it. Exactly. Can't say there's not much more to go off in these early practices. But again, like and subscribe to this show. Appreciate everybody's support. We're glad to be back in the saddle. Big week of practice coming up. Go Canes.
Go Canes.